Wow,
Awesome.
what an introduction from Rachel there. Good to see you guys. Everybody, we are coming to you live from our amazing tiered arena here in Stockholm, Sweden. And just as Rachel said, yes, welcome to the GLL Grand Slam PUBG Classic. We have 3 days of amazing PUBG action to take place. And at the end, only one of our 16 teams will be able to call themselves champions. My name is Parla, and I will be your desk host over these 3 days. And I'm currently joined on the desk by Toffees and Frost. Gentlemen, good to see you.
Great to be here. Excited to be here. I love being back in Stockholm. I love the attitude this city has about esports, and I'm hyped to see what everyone brings.
Look, I'm so excited to see all of the games we're going to have here. It's amazing with all of these regions we have over here right now.
Indeed, and you know, we're not only joined by these analysts on the desk, we also have Toby, who'll be doing post-game analysis segments, and then we have, of course, some amazing commentators as well. We've got a bunch of them, so let me read them off to you right now. We've got Lay DeMan Smith, we've got Derek Moses Mosley, we've got James Martrim Oates, Michael Hypot Robbins, and then, of course, Richard Sims and Lauren Pansy Scott. So an absolutely stacked roster, just as we have on the stage as well. All right, guys, what are your initial feelings right now? How is it to be here in Stockholm? Toffees, you said you love this place. They have a great view on esports.
Yeah, I mean, we walked around a little bit earlier today. We saw all the offices from different developers that are here in town. Sort of just the vibe of the city is great. The food is wonderful. You know I love food, so I love coming up here to Stockholm and sort of eating all that fresh fish and stuff, and it's just a great experience.
Yeah.
I mean, you already have your favorite places here to eat at as well.
And Frost, this is sort of your home country, right?
Yeah, home turf. It feels great. It feels great to be working with GLL and all the amazing production team we have here. It's just going to be amazing.
Indeed, I can't wait to get things going. But before we do that, let's take a look at the schedule and the format. We're going to get that up on screen now. And as you can see, today, Friday, the 19th of July, we've already played out the showdown. Then we start things off with the Grand Slam at about 4 o'clock. And then we have a post-show, the final circle as well. And then we follow that over the next 2 days. We have a total prize pool, just as Rachel said, of $300,000. And in terms of points and prize distribution, we are playing in the Super rule set that governs the entirety of PUBG Esports. And then you can see how points are distributed on our table on the right. Also, Frost, we should not forget, right, there's an extra bonus for the best performing region.
Yeah, you get a spot for the PGC later this year. I mean, that's probably one of the biggest prizes in my mind, at least coming into this, because it's only one spot for one region, and it's only for the winner.
We've seen it constantly happen, where a team that should qualify sort of loses out in the last moment. Teams like Knights, who have just an amazing last day and push someone off of that pedestal. Getting the extra spot, earning it here, means that that may be your spot when it comes to the global championships. We saw FaZe miss the globals last year by 1 spot. If they say had won an extra, they would have gone as well and possibly won the whole thing. So these teams are looking to lock that up for their own region, but also in their own personal interest.
Talking about regions, let's look at them in a bit more detail. As we already know, we have 16 teams here from across 4 regions. From North America, we have 5. From Europe, we have 5. And then from Latin America, 3. And then also 3 from the Oceanic regions as well. Guys, which region here do you think could be the strongest? I'm looking at a European and an American, so I'm hoping for some fireworks.
I mean, I got to say North America. I think that their time is now. They've been training hard. NPL was a phenomenal season for these teams, and a lot of them are on the up. Teams like Rumblers, who've literally rumbled onto the scene out of contenders in their first phase. They came out and got themselves here today, so they have a lot to prove. And we got teams like Tempo Storm and Cloud9, who have been constant perennial favorites, and I think are playing at the top of their game right now.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I want to say that EU or EMEA will be the strongest, but that's not what I believe in. I think that NA will trump it. They will prevail. They will get the spot. They will get the #1 spot here.
Somebody clip that. I need that. For the PEL guy saying NPL is looking good right now.
Yeah, for both of you, has it been interesting to see each team develop during the leagues in your respective regions.
Yeah, it's a lot of different stories. Like let's take Cloud9 for instance. This idea that they have had a bit of a rivalry. They picked up Moody recently, and you know him and Tempo Storm sometimes butt heads. They like to go back and forth. They're a team that we've been waiting to sort of live up to their full potential. I think they now sort of have that option. And like we said, we've got these teams like Rumblers. Or Ghost is a great example of a team that made some recent roster changes. They picked up Shrimzy. He was supposed to be kind of a short-term fix in my opinion, but was so good and so much fun to play with that he has now become a staple, nay, a feature of Ghost. So I think that these guys have hit their stride at the right time, in the right place to take this thing home.
Just before we get on to Europe with you, Frost, and seeing how the team's developed over the league, just as a side note, I met Shrimzy for the first time, I think 2 or 3 days ago when we went out to a lake, which you'll all see a bit from at home over the course of the next few days. That guy is crazy. I'm not going to reveal more, but that guy is legit crazy. Patrick, please.
Look, before we move over to the EU teams, don't forget Spacestation Gaming.
No.
That's my boys right there. I used to coach them back in the first phase of MPL. They just barely missed out. Now they came into phase 2. High Park retired. Now he's actually here with us.
He's here with us.
But they replaced him with J-Sank. I think that's a good addition to the team. They did well. Coming into the last day of MPL, they were in the first place. I think they got a good shot here.
I mean, I think J-Stank's another great example of a player who came sort of from a grassroots point. He played with Oxymoron for a while, worked his way up to sort of the big 5, and is performing really well. And I think that that's where NPL, the North American teams, have the advantage right now. They dug through the contenders, they dug through the extra players, and they found the best talent available, and they brought them here.
Okay, before we have some words on Europe, let's take a look at today's schedule. Get that up on screen. All of you can see exactly what's going to transpire over the course of today. So 6 matches each day, and on day 1 we are starting with Miramar for the first 3 matches, and then we'll close things out during the second half of the day on Erangel. Frost, please continue with Europe and how the teams have developed over the leagues.
So let's look at Europe. We got FaZe Clan, we got Liquid, Navi, G2, and Knights. That's some amazing teams. We know the names from before. Knights and FaZe Clan is actually the only 2 teams that is here right now that has been to every GLL event so far.
I love the teams coming out of Europe. Navi, for instance, is just huge. They have a huge fan base. I know their team stream throughout the seasons have been incredibly popular, and I'm sure that they will be here again at GLL. You remember, you can check them out. The team streams are going to be pretty amazing. But I got to be honest, I think that the Knights have started to prove that they have a huge upside. They've gone through a lot of trials and tribulations over the last couple of months, and we'll talk about that hopefully a little bit later. But these guys, I think this might be the moment that they can step out of the shadow and into the spotlight.
Absolutely. We've got such a great mix of teams here at GLL Grand Slam, PUBG Classic. And also, if you have a particular favorite, I can let you guys know at home that we have team streams for each of them. All right, everybody, for now, we are going to head to a short break and then be back very, very shortly to get the first match underway with a bit of a cheeky analysis beforehand. Do not go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to GLL Grand Slam PUBG Classic. Now, we are pretty much ready to go with our first match of the day on Miramar. I'd love to get your initial thoughts on what it means to be playing this map first.
I mean, it's a catch-22 for some teams. Sure, we start on Miramar. Teams, I think, in North America and OC specifically do well there, but the downside is it means we wrap up the tournament in Erangel. And I think teams like Liquid and FaZe specifically, have always thrived on that map. So they start slow, but they get to end in their favorite place.
Well, a lot of teams, we usually say that a lot of the good teams do really good on Erangel, not as good on Miramar. Now, I think that is not the case anymore. Nowadays, it's kind of 50-50. The teams are really good on both of the maps, especially on Miramar. I mean, in PL, we had 48 games on Miramar itself.
48 games.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah, talk about the difference in how much the regions have played.
I mean, the easiest context to put is that the teams coming out of North America, specifically in the MPL, have had almost an entire month to watch the PEL teams play, to sort of adapt to their style and plan. The guys from PEL, they got a very short break. They didn't have a lot of time for extra scrimming or preparing for this larger scale competition, so I think that might hurt them in the first day of play.
Well, they're coming in hot from PL, straight from PL. They're ready to battle it out here. They didn't have a break. They're not chilled out.
I think this is going to work best in the favor of the Knights. These guys started slow, finished high, so they're coming into this tournament riding an amazing performance and are going to come in hot and I think ready to play. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, well, why don't we focus in on Pittsburgh Knights and talk about them in a bit more detail. We have Dradon, Wanted, then Reels, my boy from the UK. I've got to know him quite well over the last couple of days, and then Snark. What can you tell me about these players?
I mean, if you look at it, they brought up 2 new players into the team, Snark and Wanted. They played with Raise Your Edge before this. Coming into the team, I didn't really believe that Knights would do that good as they did here in PL Phase 2. Now, it came down to the last day. The last day, they were on 9th place, and they had an amazing day. They won 3 out of 4 games. They could have won 4 games. They got 75 points. That's a record in PL. The record before that was 59. I think it was set by FaZe Clan. So that tells you how big of a gap that new record was and how good of a team they can actually be in just one day.
Toffees, is that an anomalous performance to be able to get the highest scoring day ever seen in the league and then for that to push you into qualifying for GLL Grand Slam? Or do you think they can repeat those performances here and have a very, very strong show?
I mean, I think they can repeat it. The Knights have a history of tumultuous situations, right? They've long dreamed of being sort of top 3, top 4 in EU, but they've had, you know, at GLL 2, they had a victory, the only victory they ever had a chance at, like ripped away from them M19. They've had roster shuffles, they've had allegations of trouble. Like, it's been a tough year for these guys. They made the change. The OG Dradon is still on the team, still leading the charge.
Yeah.
And I want him to have that GLL, have that moment where they can hoist the trophy, where the ex-kings of consistency who have become a wild card can finally step back up, lift their heads high, and say, we are again the best in the world. And I think they've got the momentum to potentially do that.
An interesting fact about what PK achieved when they qualified for GLL Grand Slam is that alongside FaZe, they're the only 2 organizations that have made it to all 4 GLL lands, Patrick.
Yeah, they made it to all 4 GLL lands, but that doesn't mean anything if you don't win it, right? And every time we had a GLL event so far, it's been a winner from the CIS region that now is a part of the EMEA. So are you gonna bring it home?
I mean, I hope so. Like I said, but we're talking Knights. I'm excited to see what they break. I think that the early games are going to be a big deal for these guys, coming off of the high of such a great performance. I mean, when they got to the midpoint, I think it was about 36 to 40 in their season. They were doing an average of 4.2 points per game. They kicked that up. Remember, you have to bring averages up over a long number. So getting to 5.2 by 70 and 6 by the end is a huge improvement. And if they keep that trajectory going here today, I think we see some big numbers. So if they can start off in game 1 with, I would say, 7, maybe 8 points, I think it's a huge indicator that this is going to be a good week for them.
It's going to be rough for them because if they don't have this good start as you're talking about right now, it's going to be rough for them. I think they're going to be struggling. And they need to have that good start because, as you said, they're coming off from such a high. And if they come into a low, they get a 16th place, 0 kills, something like that, it's not going to work out. They're going to start choking on that.
I think it's good we're on Miramar for them. I think that they have kind of a rough drop right now on
talk about the
Erangel.
drop
They're
a bit,
sharing.
Toffees, actually. That's what I wanted to touch upon next.
I think that they've got a pretty good drop. Miramar is far more open to trash loot styles of play than I think Erangel is. We've got the God compounds, other buildings that have good quality tier 3 loot in it. They drop in a good spot, and I think that that'll work well for them in sort of starting out there. When we go to Erangel, they've got to deal with, I think it's Athletico that's right down the street that wants to loot near them. They've got a whole bunch of other people that are sort of in their region. So if they can start 3 strong on Miramar, it's going to set a good standard.
Well, as you said, on Miramar, they're going to be dropping on Power Grid. That's their home, and they're going to be there alone. Nobody's going to be contesting them. That means that they can do the normal rotations. They can play the normal game that they usually do in PL. That comes down to not every team, because a lot of the teams are actually contesting each other or getting new drop zones. Now, getting new drop places also means that you got to figure out the rotations. You got to figure out who's your neighbor, when are they rotating, where do they rotate.
I think one of the keys to victory in this tournament, Paula, is going to be the idea that we need to move fast. Get your compounds, get moving before anybody else does, don't get caught in rotation. That comes down to loot efficiency. And that's where if you get your spot that you're used to training in your phase or in your league is important. These guys know their drop like the inside of their hand, and they can loot very quickly and be out of there within 2 minutes. New drops don't always have the same efficiency.
One thing though, out of these 16 teams we have here, over 10 of them are actually edge playing teams. They like to play with the circle around the edge. And that might be trouble for a lot of the teams if they do that, because they're going to be clashing together already in a circle like 3 or something like that.
I guess that's an interesting dynamic to talk about, is that if you have a majority of teams playing the edge, are you then still benefiting from playing the edge, or are you going to get in too many early engagements, or at some point is everybody going to just start collapsing on each other?
Basically, you start to learn your lesson very quickly. You're going to see teams that want to, they're going to say, oh, I like to edge play, but I keep getting into these mix-ups, and so you'll see the meta be shifty for the first 2 games and then start to really settle in, and teams will figure out what works best for them.
But you got to remember, though, if you're an edge team, that's what you're comfortable with playing with. And if you go center instead, you might not really know which compa do we want to play, because usually we play the edge, we want to fight against the teams.
Yeah, now going back to the Pittsburgh Knights, we can take a look at what their final moments in the PL were like.
Just wait, just wait, just wait.
I don't know if we did it. We did it?
Yeah.
We did it?
No, wait.
That was probably like one of the first games we ever played, or one of the only games where I ever won, and we weren't celebrating. You know, we just sat there, we won the game, and we just all looked at each other, and we was like just confused, you know? We was like, how many points did TSM get? Like, did we do it or not?
Hey, wait, how many points did we get today? 21. I mean, I don't know, like
60.
we probably got 70 points today.
But like the emotions, man, it's insane. Like I've never experienced anything like this before. Like it's my second time trying to qualify for something like this. Actually insane. I have no words.
Like we didn't celebrate at all. Like we just were like really confused, you know? Just because of TSM's points. We had a great game, like we played it super well, but yeah, we were just kind of waiting for the end result because we didn't know if we had beat TSM or not.
11. We needed 16 points. For sure, 100%. How many points did you get?
When we did get the confirmation from like multiple people, then we started celebrating.
We did not expect to get top 5 at all. We would just keep playing. Like we were improving so much so quickly as a new roster, throughout the entire phase. But we're gonna go hard and like do our best to like perform really good at Grand Slam.
I can't quite imagine what it's like to not exactly know if you've made it or not, and then to feel all the emotions that go through you when you realize, oh my God, we've actually qualified.
Steel is forged in the fire, diamonds are made by pressure. They've experienced that. They've stressed, they know what it's like to be on the edge, and you know they don't want to feel that again.
Yeah.
Like I said, they had GLL2 ripped away from them by M19 at the last moment in a 1v1 sort of fight scenario. The question is, did they go home? Did they polish the gems? Are they going to come out here and shine the way that they need to in order to take home this victory? I don't know, but I think game 1 and 2 are going to let us know.
Steve has got some bars. He's going with his whole metallurgy. He's going to polish the gems. Patrick, please, what was it like to see that from Pittsburgh Knights?
Watching that video, I just got goosebumps. I just remembered back when we were there. I was doing the desk. I saw it during the game itself. We had the live feed. They did it. They did it. And we were just, after the game ended, we were looking at them. They did it. What's happening? They were sitting there. They weren't celebrating. They were sitting there. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know if they made it or not. And no one was telling them. And it was like the most heartbreaking thing ever. You would just look at them. You just wanted to run out there and tell them, you did it.
Yeah. I mean, to put this in context.
Look at Reels laughing whilst you're explaining it. Man like Reels.
They know, but to put this in context, Porosaurus, the coach of the Rumblers, was preparing for this event, and we were chatting about drop zones and everything else. And he was like, well, you know, he set up this preliminary where everyone's dropping, and the Knights weren't even on that list. And then we watched the last day, and we were shocked. They weren't one of the people sort of on our radar to make it. And I think that mentality of them probably showing up that day too and saying, right now, guys, we're not going. But if we have the game of our life, the day of our life, we get to go. And then successfully accomplishing that is going to be a huge boost to their spirit.
Even if they had the day of their life, I mean, it wasn't even sure that they would get it because it was such a huge gap up to TSM that was currently sitting on the 5th place. They've been sitting there throughout the whole phase. It was a 58-point gap. And, I mean, no one believed that Knights could
It was one of those situations where you needed a set of circumstances to play out of your control other than you just having a good day, a good set of games, right?
I mean, but it lines up PUBG, right? It doesn't matter if we're playing, what, 96 games or if we're playing 40. It comes down to every single point. A kill is worth a point, and time and again, these tournaments are determined by less than 5. So capitalize, start on game 1, go hard, be aggressive, and never, ever let even 1 point slip away, because that could be the difference between taking home the cash.
Talking about kills and placements, guys, I have to press you for your predictions, starting with Patrick.
Ooh, what kind of predictions do you want?
Give me maybe general potential top 3s.
Top 3s for the overall.
But no, not for the whole tournament, for this match. For this match.
Oh, for this match? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's not jump the gun too soon. We're only dropping in for the first time, mate.
Well, looking at it, we're starting on Miramar. I think one of the strongest teams we have on Miramar from PL is G2 and FaZe. I'm going to put those two up there, and I'm going to put Tempo Storm up there as well, because they're dropping Impala. They got it for themselves. They can have a lot of room to rotate with.
All right, Steve?
I think there's some teams that need to have a strong game 1, and as much as I'd like to say Athletico or Rumblers, because this is a big game for them to win, I don't think so. I think Liquid coming out of Picado, potentially with a couple of free kills if they get contested there, could put up some big numbers and spark a good run. Liquid's one of my potential winners of this tournament, and they want to start strong, and I think they've got the mentality to do it.
Awesome. We do have a bit more time before we head over to our casters, who I can see to my right. Richard, Lauren, good to see you. Can we talk just briefly about the big underdogs in this tournament, or the lesser-known quantities from the Latin American region and the Oceanic region? Starting with you, Steve.
Let's kick off with the Oceanic region. I think the big one to talk about here is sort of Athletico. These guys won 25% of their matches. Like, that's insane. Their numbers are huge. I talked to Xenox, the caster down there, a great guy, and he said they're going to take it. They should have been in London, but they had a bad last match and sort of gave up points to Incognito that sent them. They want to prove themselves. The problem, Paula, is I don't think they come from a strong enough region to really have developed some of the skills they need to deal with an incredibly strong 16-team lobby. So my hope is I'm wrong. My hope is they come out in #1, they prove to everyone else here that they're not pushovers, and they thrive. I mean, with Extreme's addition to the team, it's been unstoppable.
Well, I do think that Incognito is the one who's going to be the strongest from the OCE region. They came in, they played at the FaZe Global Summit, they beat Athletico in the first phase. Coming to phase 2, sure, they came second place, but I feel like they're coming strong here. They had the experience playing on global events like this before, and that's a huge thing to have with you.
On the opposite side, don't write off Bitloft coming out of Latin America. These guys have a very good pedigree. They seem to be riding on a high right now, but they say that they're all very evenly matched. They said their biggest threat is Singularity, who they think is a little bit better than them. But here's teams America and Europe. What is your goal in this tournament? What do you want? And they say, we want to win this. Top 5 or bust. Both of the all the teams from OCE and the teams from Latin America said, you know what, if we get, you want to this thing with. You want to start to crush it.
Yeah, you want to win. You want to bring that extra spot to your region. You want to lift that trophy. You want to show the world we're the best here in the Western region.
But I think Incognito, coming off of London, these guys have the most recent international LAN experience. They know what it's like to be hungry. And honestly, if you talk about that, Liquid got 9th in London. Incognito got 10th. They're the only 2 teams here that ranked in the top 10 at that event. So I think OCE is a uprising region. They have a lot of love for this game, and they want nothing more than to be here.
Yeah, I mean, we can talk a bit more about the Oceanic region. And Frost, we spoke a bit about Athletico beforehand. They were a team that you wanted to raise some points about.
I mean, if you look at it, they got 2nd place during the phase 1. Then they made a roster change. They brought in Extreme, coming in from Wildcard, playing in MPL. Brought a lot of experience to the team. And not only that, but he also played with Solidmate and Luke before in Greyhound back in the days before he left for NA. Now he's back, he's comfortable, and hopefully he's comfortable here as well and ready to just kill people.
Indeed. And do you want to jump in?
So yeah, that's not, but you know, we don't want to leave out the last guys. Hell yeah, brother. One of the best icons, I think, here at the tournament. These guys, you know, Xenox told me they're the most flexible of the OCE teams, so that works to their advantage. But I think that they have a lot they have a big climb ahead of them if they want to catch up to their 2 brothers.
Yeah, and talking about big climbs, it's been a tough road, a long road for these Oceanic teams to get here, and let's see exactly how they did it.
It is a dream come true. Being on a global stage, being able to partake in an event like this against the world's finest, you know, we're stoked.
Coming into GLL, I mean, we thrashed the OC qualifiers. It was comfortable the whole way through. Had a solid point lead the entire time.
In Pro Circuit, we had a really strong season, like a 30% win ratio, 200-point lead. So yeah, it went really well.
We didn't really perform to our best this phase. It was kind of heavily dominated by Athletico in our region.
Phase 2 was a rough one. We definitely underperformed to the start. We kind of brought it back towards the end, but I don't think we achieved what we were hoping for.
Into this phase, it was slow, but we found our pattern, our wave, and we pushed through and qualified, which enabled us to be here. I can honestly say that all the other regions are more aggressive. Pretty much you can't make a mistake. If you were to make a mistake, you'll get punished for it.
You can't do things that you would usually do back in Australia. In the Oceanic region, we can do pretty stupid splits. We can do 1-1 splits where we control a large portion of the land, which you shouldn't really be able to do. But in regions like this, you'll get destroyed for doing stuff like that.
I'm not too sure about Latin America, but definitely NA and EU are a lot, I'd say, easier to predict, but they are also really sharp. So as long as we can adapt and learn from what they are doing, I think we'll do well.
We're not going to need to change our play style. I think we're just going to need to refine it.
We have quite strong fraggers on the team, and I think we just outskill pretty much everyone in the region by quite some margin.
I think we have pretty good chances. I feel very confident. I got a good feeling about this tournament. I'm just keen to play against the people that I've been watching on Twitch, and you know, the people that I look up to. So it's the first time that we've been able to compete on an international stage. It's good when you can grind that much where your idols become your rivals. You look back and see how far you've come, and you realise that you're in it now, you know?
When your idols become your rivals. Very strong words. Is that a good way to motivate yourself and your team,
You know,
Steve?
it's funny. A long time ago, the first event I met Athletico at, they were in the training room, and I was chatting with them, and Liquid walked in to train next to them, and they sat down at the computers, and the guys were like, "Oh my God, it's Liquid!" And they were like, "Toffees, is that?" And I was like, "Yeah, come here, let's go meet the guys." And they were so excited.
Yeah.
And now they've gotten to this point where, yes, their pedigree is bigger. They're international players. They're well known in the OCE, and they're at that level. But the thing I love about this community is how close they are. The OCE players hang out together. They put up pictures of barbecuing as a group regularly on their Twitters and Instagrams. Like, these guys are a real legitimate community, and they support each other so well.
I went just quickly, Patrick, when I went out to the lake with them the other day as well, when we got on the bus, they were all sat, like all the teams together, making noise, like laughing. And so I think you're right, absolutely. The vibe in their region is very much communal. Patrick?
I'm a little bit worried for him, though. A team like Athletico, dominating over at OC, coming over here, they have the confidence level very high up right now. If they have a bad game, it's going to be really rough for them.
Well, to put that in context, so Extreme played in North America for a little while.
He had a little stint over there.
And one of the troubles that he had when he first came over was he was not used to the level of challenge that those players brought. In OCE, he felt like he could dominate anybody in a 1v1. You come to a place like NPL and PEL, and there's a lot more players, way more players at that level that will punish you for the smallest mistakes. I think all of them may run into that.
Yeah, I know you're also putting yourself, a lot of pressure on yourself, coming here with expectations. You don't want to disappoint anyone. You don't want to disappoint anyone at home. You don't want to disappoint the crowd over here. You don't want to disappoint us.
I mean, honestly, the casters, though, in the OCE region feel like this is the first tournament where 3 OCE teams are together, and that's been good for them. It's making them stronger.
Maybe we can get the camera back onto them for a second, try to talk to them, get some facial reactions. We'll see if we can get that shot up again, because they can hear us. They're laughing, vibing with us. Guys, how are you feeling, Athletico? Good? All right, some thumbs up, some claps. I feel like they're enjoying the moment, right, Patrick?
Everybody should be enjoying the moment. They're one of the best ones in their region. Actually, they are the best one in their region, and they're here to fight for a lot of money, to lift the trophy, and get another spot for their region.
I like the casual putting in the earplugs as we're talking.
Yeah,
get that pressure out of here.
Like a couple nods, just like, yeah, mate.
I mean, but that's because there's a big order on them. Game 1, the world is watching, right? These guys are coming in with what he said, 30% win rate, huge numbers. I was told by the casters down there that Hell Yeah Brother has the lowest of kill counts. They get 14 kills. Like a 14-kill game, they call a low kill count over there because guys like Athletico are racking up 22-kill games, which is unheard of in our leagues. Now, up against 16 of the best teams in the West, if you're expecting a 14-kill game, I think you're dreaming as a regularity.
I mean, 14-kill game here would be huge.
It would be very big.
It would be very big.
I don't think anybody joins the 16K club here at this event. I mean, killing a third of the lobby is a very tall order. And the first season of NPL, we had about 8 different teams join that club or have 8 games that did it. The second season, it was 2. So it's become more and more difficult to rack up those points.
I feel like we're going to have at least one team coming in with a 16-kill win, actually.
All right.
And it's probably going to be in one of the first games where people are still trying to figure out what they're going to be doing.
Who's it going to be?
I'm not going to tell you.
Just go out on a limb.
No, I'm not going to tell you.
All right. Rumblers will have a 16K.
Yeah, wait, no, it's interesting that when Steve asked you that, you didn't want to say it because you don't have a set person, or you do have a specific team.
I have.
And you don't want to reveal it.
And, well, it's the team we just saw there, FaZe Clan.
FaZe up, baby.
They're one of the teams who is really good on adapting really, really quick. And they're going to be doing that. They know what the other teams have been doing during the scrims here, and they know what they're going to be expecting from the other teams. And they're going to work around that. Straight away, they're going to get so many kills.
I love me some FaZe, but I love me some Rumblers. These guys, they walk into a room and the first thing Lo says is, any Rumblers? Like, these guys love fighting, so look for them to do that. But other teams that love fighting, let's talk about Bitloft. These guys coming out of Latin America.
Yeah, let's turn our focus a bit to Latin America. We have a bit more time before we go to our casters. Just sorting out some behind-the-scenes issues. Nothing too heavy, though, so just stick around and we'll talk about this region, which we haven't touched upon too much, Steve.
I mean, I think this is a region that's going to have probably the least amount of LAN experience. These teams are definitely working out of their element, right? We're a Western, it's a sort of a big Western competition. They're struggling in terms of not a lot of them are fluent in English, so they don't have the communal vibe that a lot of the other players do when they show up at this event. I don't know if that helps, feeling isolated or part of the group. It's kind of a tough thing.
I mean, it's probably pretty tough, but at the same time, they have 2 other teams from the region with them here as well that can help them out with that and also be hanging out with them, of course. So I don't feel like that's going to be a main issue for them. It's probably going to be the inexperience that will bring them down, if anything, because first time coming in overseas, coming over here, trying to fight for this big amount of prize pool.
Yeah, also the point that I think we were all speaking about with regards to the Oceanic region, about the communal feel of the region and that all the teams are like talking together, hanging out, and that they have a good communal atmosphere. It's the same with the Latin American region, at least from what I've seen so far. Like, again, when we went out and did some activities the other day, dude, I was playing football with them. I was on Team Brazil versus Team Argentina. And then, of course, we've got some players from Uruguay. And all of those guys are mixing together and having a good time as well.
I think the reality is, for a long time in Latin American scene, there was sort of a villain, right? This team that everybody wanted to beat, that they didn't believe was doing things the right way. And then sort of slowly over time, the rest of the teams developed and have started taking over the lead. You've got teams like Canids, who I think have a ton of potential, but then they have a downside. Right now, every drop that they have is split with somebody else. They're dropping into Miramar up against FaZe, in theory, assuming no one goes there. They're dropping, theoretically, into Pachinki, which they're going to have to go somewhere else, right? Because everywhere that they like to go is held by one of the best teams in the world. So my question for Latin America is, do you stand and frag, or do you run? Talking to Bitloft yesterday, they said, we don't care that Navi, one of the best early game killers we've seen, drops in the exact same spot. They said, we're gonna earn it.
Yeah, well, guys, we took a look at how the Oceanics region's road to Grand Slam went, and now let's take a look at Latin America's.
Eu acho que as chances do lado são grandes, porque ultimamente a gente vem treinando bastante e eles têm mais experiências aqui, mas a gente compensa na bala, então o Latão tem boas chances de ganhar aqui.
The first tournament was GLL Grand Masters Latam. We did pretty poorly. We placed 12th. After that, we had another chance to qualify at ESL La Ligue Season 3 that we won, and we are here. It's a great accomplishment for me.
Sí, ahora que estamos jugando contra equipos de otras regiones, tenemos que cambiar algunas cosas porque ellos también utilizan esas rotaciones o drops. Así que sí, tenemos que cambiar varias cosas y aprender y adaptarnos a los otros equipos también, que son demasiado fuertes.
Podría decir que, o sea, por lo que uno puede ver en de los torneos internacionales, que es como mucho más ordenado, más estructurado todo. En cambio en Sudamérica como que es todo más desordenado, más caótico. Hay partidas que hay muchos PvP, partidas que son muy calmadas y como que es muy diferente en ese sentido, en el orden de la partida. Creo que deberíamos intentar mejorar en el sentido táctico, porque somos como, en general es como que los equipos son más desordenados y no tienen tanta coordinación a la hora de tomar PvPs y peleas. En cambio, sí destacamos porque somos buenos disparando y individualmente somos buenos, pero como equipo nos falta más comunicación y más coordinación a la hora de tomar los PvP. Creo que eso es lo que tenemos que aprender acá de los equipos.
Lo que buscamos es poder pegar un buen top y sacar la máxima experiencia que podamos.
Creo que me siento confiado, creo que el equipo anda en la última semana, estuvo practicando y ganamos algo de experiencia, algo de confianza. Si bien en Sudamérica veníamos con otra idea, acá como que nos topamos con un paredón y nos bajó un poco la autoestima, pero creo que estamos recuperados y preparados.
La verdad, o sea, mentalmente venimos con todas las ganas de dar lo mejor posible, intentar sacar el top 1 obviamente, pero también hay que ser realista, o sea, yo creo que tenemos chances sí de estar arriba del top 10 por lo menos, top 8 por ahí, si jugamos muy bien.
Nosso objetivo aqui é buscar a vitória, né? Então a gente veio aqui batalhar com todas as forças para garantir o primeiro lugar.
Always great to hear words from a region such as Latin America that's coming to a tournament with a slight image of the underdog. And I think it's something that we should note that Pome from Singularity said that they are prepared to adapt and change their drops and rotations accordingly to what's going on with the other teams here, Steve.
As they should. I mean, you need to come in ready to adapt, but this is a team that averaged 5.7 points on Erangel and only 4.2 on Miramar. So they're coming out already at a bit of a deficit with starting in that Miramar location, but that's sort of the tail of the tape for all of the teams from Latin America. Bitloft, you ready for this? 6.4 is how they got here on Erangel. They run a dismal 3.1 in Miramar. So they score less than half of their normal point spread when it comes to that map. So the other one is Red Canids. They are the only team that does a little bit better on Miramar. They're very good at both, and I think that they're my pick for sort of who I think is going to perform the best out of that region at this tournament.
Look, I'm just going to put it out there. I think that all the LATAM teams and the OC teams, they're going to be sort of a wild card. Because you have the MPL, you have the PL teams. Those teams have been fighting each other for so long, since the start of PUBG Esports. And now you have other regions coming in.
Right.
You have no idea what they're going to be doing.
I mean, your point's valid. In the OCE video we just watched, they said, yeah, we don't know about the Latin American teams. And the reality is all of the regions are sort of acting like that, right? The North American region is always staring at PEL and vice versa, where they're sort of assuming those are the big hitters. And I think a lot of people overlook Latin America for a lot of reasons, partly because they just haven't been as strong in the past.
Yeah.
And this is their chance to come out of the shadows, catch everyone off guard. And honestly, I think they could do it. They play differently. They think differently. They like to set traps. They like to be difficult for teams in the early game.
But that's also a thing. They are going to be unpredictable for the other teams. And being unpredictable is one of the best things you can be in PUBG, because then nobody will know where you will be and what you will be doing.
Everything about winning PUBG comes down to limiting the randomness, right? You want to limit RNG. You want to have loot spots that have the best potential, loot rotations that have the lowest chance of getting outside the circle. When you throw in 3 teams you're not familiar with, that adds sort of a stylistic RNG to the game. You don't know where they are in your rotations. You don't know if they're camping a bridge. We haven't seen a bridge camp in really high-end competitive matches in a very long time. These guys could just throw caution to the wind and try some of these crazy things because it could work.
I mean, if you would ask a team like Tempo Storm, what will Liquid do during a melee game? They would say straight away, well, they would be rotating 2-3 minutes, West Bridge. That's how it goes. If you ask them, what will Singularity do? No clue.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point to raise, Steve. Also Steve? I was talking to Patrick there.
You know,
Sorry.
we look
Patrick. We're just
similar.
going to switch the names up. You can call me whatever you'd like the rest of the show. Just in general terms, we see it across esports, right, that some regions start off or at certain points are more dominant compared to others, right? And then we see regions that have that image of the underdog going to tournaments, qualifying to them, getting experience, and then at some point performing. Now, I'm not entirely sure, other than maybe Athletico or Incognito, how much LAN experience the other guys already have, but nonetheless, it could be one of those opportunities where one of these 6 teams or the other 4 has the perfect run. They could fire off on all cylinders, and going along with what you were saying, Patrick, about being harder to read and being surprising, pull something out of the bag here, Steve. Is this a possibility?
It's 100% a possibility, Rachel. I think that's what I love most about the way that this game works, is it's all about, there's no set meta. Everything shifts, right? So there's regions that have been studying the big dogs forever. Athletico talking about chasing their heroes. They learn from Liquid, and then what you do is when you learn from someone, the way to beat them is to tune it, make it a little bit better. Go, this is how they play, and here's how I see their weaknesses, and here's how I get rid of them in my game. And teams from Latin America and teams from OCE have been watching the top dogs for so long. I mean, we love James, we love Ibiza, we love Fuzzface. They've been here since the very beginning, but they've also been streaming. They've also been watched. They've also been seen for the last year and a half. Everything they do, their styles, HC Spray is world famous at this point, and teams know that if the first 10 shots don't hit you from AC, you can push him because he's not going to hit the rest. But the fact of them, it's a little bit of fun there, but the matter is that they should have learned and evolved in ways that maybe the bigger region teams aren't used to.
Well, also, of course, you're saying all this, but at the same time, it's not easy to adapt and read the teams and just learn from them and then do better than them with their strats. Because you need to play against them to actually know how it feels like, what they actually will be doing when you try to counter them. Because when you try to counter them, they're not going to do the same thing.
You learn how to break them. You know, it's an old adage that the way to defeat your enemy is when you want them to, when you think you have strength, you leave the gates open, you lure them in, you use their strength against them. And I think these smaller regions have a chance to do that against these big dogs, to say, we know your rotations, we know where you thrive, we know where you like to rotate to. What if we get there first? What if we're waiting? What if we trap?
Indeed. Oh, go on. Would you like to continue,
What
Patrick?
if they do a trap? That's a really good example. What if you know the rotation of a team and you have 2 guys actually guiding the team into your other 2 teammates and just setting up an ambush for them?
I mean, let's talk about, so Bitloft and Na'Vi is a good example of this. These are two teams that are feuding over a drop spot that most of us turn our noses up to in pub games. The two sets of those yellow houses right north of the bridge on the way to military. And the reason for that is the high ground rock, right? You need to have one person looting that area and then assuming control of all rotations that go past the bridge. So they're fighting over something that we as viewers go, why? These houses are terrible. But it's all about understanding the geography and the reality of rotating. And that's why they're willing to put tons of resources into making that drop safe for themselves.
Yeah, guys, we can actually focus in a bit more on Europe, turn our attention back to that region. And Patrick, you look like you already wanted to jump in with something.
Hey, look at this, beautiful Balok.
Yeah, we've got a bunch of Balok fans in the crowd. I can see at least three of them with his jersey on.
Well, I mean, I'm hoping, I don't know for sure if it's his family. I think it's his family.
Oh, well, that's amazing.
I mean, you remember, Balok is playing in the NPL.
Exactly.
Yeah, he's playing
been
in the
away
NPL,
for
but
a long time.
He's Danish, though, correct?
He's Danish,
yeah.
but this is kind of home turf for him as well. It's got to be feeling great for him to actually be back here, having the support. We saw his family support him back in Copenhagen Games. That's 1.5 years ago.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got to remember that. That's going to help these teams sort of rise to the top. But to focus on Europe, they're playing in an area that a lot of these guys are comfortable playing in. They are expected to be the top teams. When you look at power rankings, they're almost always top 3 in the world. And they're also really strong enough in their pedigree that pressure's not going to get to them. You know, FaZe is used to walking in. I think he said in a DreamHack Austin interview, like, we were like, how's it feel to win? And he goes, it's just business as usual. Like, that's the mentality these guys come in with, and I think that's what you need to have on a stage this big.
I mean, at the same time, some of the teams we have here, it is the strongest version of them that we are seeing here. FaZe Clan, you have Liquid, you have Na'Vi, that's 3 of the big names. You have Tempostorm, you have Cloud9. And they've never been as strong as they are right now with the current roster that they have.
Yeah. All right. Well, guys, it's good to cover a bit more with regards to Europe. And now we can take a look at Europe's road to GLL Grand Slam.
So phase 2 for PEL, it has been a long run, but there's no doubt about it. We've had 4 teams throughout from the very beginning that were clearly going to qualify for the GLL Grand Slam. Obviously at the top, you've got Na'Vi, G2, FaZe Clan, and Team Liquid. These guys, hundreds of points above everyone else, and they are all big tournament teams. I think it's going to be fantastic.
I think the most fun thing with GLL is going to be to see the clash between all the regions itself. You're going to have OCE, LATAM, you're going to have EU, you're going to have NA.
That's going to be definitely going to be interesting. It's my first time playing against like other regions and stuff. So we're going to have a lot of stuff to do, like preparing for like seeing how they play and stuff. It's going to be interesting, and I'm looking forward to it.
The game always changes when you have more than only EU teams. And now we have NA, so a lot of like random weird stuff's gonna happen because they barely know how to play the game. So, I mean, we have a lot of EU players in NA, but there's no NA players in EU. So, I mean, I think that speaks for itself.
Obviously, the old story between North America and Europe is the fact that North American teams used to always be more aggressive. Well, I think with certainly the super settings coming in, the fact that they've all had these 2 phases now of seasons of play, you know, all putting in, what, 100+ games or something crazy like that, I think a lot of that's kind of dissipated.
Now you have some teams still playing with for placements all the time, which is kind of the old meta, and you want to go more for kills.
Of course, I feel like the meta always changes. Different LAN events, people play differently. You have to get used to where people are looting, rotations, and how people fight as well. You know, like we've played 8 weeks here. We know these teams very well, what they like to do, where they like to go, how they like to fight, you know, and every team is different, and we've really got accustomed to how these teams are playing here. So yeah, it's going to be a big switch up.
But we should also remember, it's GLL. CIS team always wins GLL.
Man, you cheeky boy. Echoing your words there, Patrick, about CIS teams always winning GLLs.
I mean, it's just a fact, right? It's a fact. and we're at the GLL event right now. So what do you have to say about this
I
topic?
think the reign has come to an end. Maluk said it best in an interview that this is the time, these are the North American teams that can bring the trophy back to North America. I think they're set up to do that. We've got a lot of new faces that have been sort of these systematic journeymen all along the way. I think North America has always been like this, looked down upon child in PUBG, treated badly by Europe. But really, they've got the talent. It's just been spread out. And we've done a good job of focusing, concentrating, finding the best talent throughout both of our leagues and bringing them together to these teams. And I think this is their time and their place.
I feel like it's going to be really close, both between the MPL teams, the NA teams, and the EU teams. We saw it in both the leagues, MPL, PEL. The teams were so close to each other. It was down to the last games in both of the leagues who was going to bring it all home.
And I think that, I'm going to, we've talked about the other regions, so I'm going to talk about the sort of North America right now. This idea that teams like the Rumblers and Tempo have such vastly different styles, right? On Rumblers, you've got Los HD, the sort of tip of their spear, where he is the violent front man, and the rest of them are great support. Like Godspeed, probably one of the best sort of broad callers, information gatherers in the game, tied together with such a strong fragger, is undefeatable. But then you got Tempo, who these guys all are really great at fighting. They put up huge numbers and they work as a unit very effectively. So it seems almost like these NPL teams have found sort of the best of what works with each other and put those teams together to thrive in their format.
I mean, you also got to look at a team like Cloud9. Yeah. They picked up a new player, H-Win, to the team itself. They've been doing great. Can't lie about that. I wasn't expecting them doing that good, considering with that new pickup, actually.
Let me just jump in there and ask Steve, what's the vibe like in the North American community? I'm asking for a specific reason, but what can you tell me about how the guys get on or potentially don't get on?
I mean, the guys get on pretty well, but I think that there's a little bit of, I don't want to say bad blood, but fun banter that goes back and forth between PEL and NPL. We love watching and we love thinking we could do that better. And I think that that sort of trash talking is fun, but also constructive in its own way.
Well, you've just taken the words right out of my mouth. Let's look at a bit of North American trash talk.
I'm in this.
Most of the PEL teams are just happy to sit in the Discord and just complain about whatever happens outside of their control, like it's going to matter at all. They're all garbage. It doesn't matter. NPL's coming for them.
Can't wait to watch EU teams play. I mean, whenever we talk about the PEL, it's going to be so great to watch them intermix with the NPL, so I don't know, maybe something happens for the first 30 minutes.
As far as like the teams, isn't there only like, I think I said earlier, there's only like, what, 4, 5 good teams in Europe? The rest are just kind of like, whatever.
A lot of people talk about NA versus EU. I don't know what to talk about. Probably just going to crush EU again like we did in Phase 1 where Lazarus got second above the EU teams.
Obviously Liquid having to, steal all the best players from every other team to have even a chance of competing.
In all the international events recently, NA has been consistently higher than them.
But I mean, even FaZe is a shadow of their former selves.
We're not afraid to take a fight against anyone. We're not really scared of any teams.
I thought this was supposed to be a good region.
Shout out to Team Liquid. I can't wait to watch them just lose a couple of members and then die as they make their way diving towards the center where they have one player that just decides to lay down in the center of the circle and continue to crawl while all the bullets go over their head. Maybe they'll fight sooner or later.
I'm starting to worry that if Europe doesn't step up at the Grand Slam, if they don't take home the trophy and really pedigree some teams, it's going to be more than just England trying to exit. We got a lot of other people are going to be looking to play in the NPL and the OC and anywhere else they can if that's going to develop their skills.
Whoa. Whoa, what was happening there? I mean, that was some pretty intense bad mouthery from you guys on the NA side of things.
Look, Valiate, he was talking about Lazarus crushing us. Where are they right now? Hold on, let me see.
I mean, let's be honest.
I can't find him.
The only team here that, Liquid was 9th place, and they're like the highest ranking team here from London. So we're going to sort of throw that argument out the door. The reality is, though, I think what we said there at the end, that PEL has been sending some of their best players over to the NPL to train and get better. We've got guys like Los HD, we've got now. They put up big numbers. And if we don't see a good showing here from the PEL teams, I think maybe we see more of their players come over to the NPL to get the training they need to get better.
The training they need. Patrick, thoughts?
I don't know about this. The best team in NA has an EU coach.
Well, yeah.
The best frag in NA is an
Those who can't
EU
do
player?
coach. So, like, yes, absolutely. We brought him over. He's a very smart guy, but he's there training North Americans because he knows that's where the skill is.
Did you hear Nerf in the video, by the way? He was saying they were not afraid of taking any fights. Now,
I'm excited.
I'm excited to see who's going to win Picado because we got an EU team there. We got Liquid there. And hey, you got Cloud9. Who's going to take it? Who's going to have Picado as their home?
Well, only time will tell. Steve, Patrick, thank you so much for this first segment. It's been a pleasure. I can't wait to do more. For now, we are going to head to a very short break, then to our casters, and the game will be ready from now in about 5 minutes.